All right. Hello, everyone. So I'm doing something really special today. I'm having a conversation with my dear friend and teacher, Jennifer Dawn. And I just want to say a little bit about my relationship with Jennifer. Um, we met in 2012 or so. And for many years, we've been working together. And in my own personal life, Jennifer, you've been a really important uh, safe and clear place for me to receive reflection on the journey. And I think for all of us, there are these characters that show up, and these characters can be in our dream state, and they can be physical human beings or they can be children. But it's inherent to the grace of life that no one's left uncared for, no one's pushed away, because we're all sort of learning and remembering and waking up. And there's this piece of supporting one another, and at every stage of the game, this is a big teaching in my own life that I'm always remembering. The guidance, the perspective, the nourishment is always available for us. And it's there when it's needed. And when something else is needed, that other thing is here as well. So maybe we can talk about, I have some ideas of what's wanting to come through in this conversation, but I just wanted to introduce this idea of or just this reflection, this appreciation to the presence that you've been in my life, and just to share you with the people that are watching this video. So um, Jennifer is a spiritual teacher and a guide, and I'll just offer it to you to maybe share a couple words and anything you want to share with those who are watching.
Thank you. Well, I'd love to add to your story that we actually got to meet on Valentine's Day.
Oh, really?
That the way that meeting happened, of course, we were at a gathering, which was so lovely, and I just came up to you from across the room and came and kissed you right on the forehead. Said, "I remember you," and that was kind of how we met.
Mm,
And the opportunity to walk in this life with you, um, hand in hand, in the different ways that we anchor and bring consciousness and love and important conversations to the forefront, is so deeply meaningful for me. So I'm
mm,
grateful to be here at this time with you. And all of the work that I do, and work doesn't feel like the right word to use, but all of the ways that I get to be in the world with people are really centered around how to live more fully as our embodied brilliance and as the love that we are. And so that gets to take a lot of different forms, and I'm excited to see where it gets to take us today.
thank you so much. And this is why there's such resonance, because that is what I care most about.
Mhm.
And when I drop into what's most important to me, no matter what's arising, no matter what phenomenally is occurring in the human experience, there's this opportunity for me every day to recenter and reconnect with an underlying devotion and commitment, which is that realization of what I am, living as the love that I am. And I find that all of life is actually designed to support us in this realization. There aren't challenges or aspects of adversity that are meant to derail us
Thank you.
from this. Because what I'm coming to understand on this journey is that the will of love is only everything, it's itself, and there isn't division. And so it's not possible that there can be anything within creation whose will is contrary to that of love, because that itself would be an absolute contradiction
Mhm.
to the nature of God, to the nature of love, to the oneness that is all encompassing to what it is. So I think this is where I want to just explore some areas with you. And
Mhm.
oftentimes when we get together, it's actually just in the field of sharing presence with you that so many blessings of clarity and insight um, get to arise. And that's a sacred relationship, one that is I really honor. And I've been reflecting deeply on this idea, and it's arising strongly now, that what is most beneficial, most supportive, most helpful to our blossoming, which, and when I speak of our blossoming, it's never in a vacuum. It's never your awakening, my awakening, someone else's awakening. It's sort of this impulse of unity that is never ever to be seen as strictly a personal experience. And so what is of absolute benevolence for me itself resonates with total universal benevolence as well. And this impulse seems to happen effortlessly. And in my own life, and the story of meeting you is an example of this, that which has been the most unefforted, the most unthought for, where there has been little to no energy of looking for someone or something, in that space the medicine shows up. In that space the beloved arises and appears. And I have many beautiful thoughts about this, but I want to open that door and invite from you anything that wishes to come through on this.
Thank you. You know, the doorway that you're speaking to is very much a doorway of the stillness. When we offer ourselves an opportunity for reflection and stillness, we do enter into a doorway into a bigger experience of ourselves. And I feel like that's really what you're talking about. And in that place, we very often are guided into and through synchronicities and into and through an experience of this delicious, scrumptious feeling of flow. And what I would also say is, as amazing and as powerful as that experience is, most of the people around us right now are not in a state where they have a lot or have carved out or are as devoted to those moments of stillness as some. And so what I want to speak to is that there's also an importance for people who are not quite there yet, who are not having those deep moments of stillness to find that doorway on their own, that this is a time for them, rather as synchronicities, this is a time of remembering. And it's important right now that we remember what is our true nature, because for many this has become murky or unclear. And so life steps in and she says, it's okay. I will give you some opportunities to remember more of who you are. And, you know, I'm speaking to you today from Olympia, Washington, where we are very much in the midst of our relationship with coronavirus. Mm-hmm. And to me, the coronavirus is this amazing poster child of some of the dysfunction that is rising to the surface to be healed, to remind us more of who we are. This is a time that we get to remember our shared humanity, that we get to remember that our actual natural impulse is to reach toward one another, not to self-isolate, but to actually be reaching toward one another in the grace of love, and to be asking, how can I help you? And what are the resources that I have available that are in balance for me to offer and extend outwardly to others? And so, yes, there is this deliciousness that you speak of, this deliciousness of connection and unity and oneness when we already live in that knowing. And for those who are finding their way to that knowing, life is giving us opportunities to remember. And this moment on the planet right now is essential to understand. As you spoke earlier, this is not here to derail us. None of what's happening in our outward reality is here for any reason but to call us home. more fully to our hearts and to the remembrance of who we really are in a culture where it has been forgotten for
Yes.
many.
Yeah. I
And so
really,
that we stand right now is on this doorway of remembering who we really are, this doorway to experience ourselves once again as the love we are.
mm, I really appreciate that. And, extending that idea beyond coronavirus to all experience of adversity. It's interesting how, and of course, this is something that I can personally identify with in my own life. There's an instinctual response, and I think this is a conditioned and learned response. It's not what is natural according to who we are. This instinctual conditioned response to challenge, to adversity, is to shift to a perception of adversity, to a perception of dread and fear and bad things happening. And it's tempting to really abide in that because there seems to be evidence of it. And this can be in our relationships when things aren't flowing very well, or with our health, or any aspect of our life, or financially. We all have thousands of areas that we can draw upon that seem to prove and provide the evidence of there being something horribly wrong, horribly worthy of dread and anxiety. And really applying this principle of everything being here to serve us, and the only direction to which it is guiding us is back towards unity and connection. I feel this really requires some level of space and curiosity that has to somehow be born, that has to enter into the scene. Because without that curiosity, it's either going to result in a strong allegiance to the idea of there being something horribly wrong going on, or this like false effort to apply a spiritual ideal upon a really difficult experience.
Mhm.
And I think that the truth of spirituality, the truth of reality, always wants to be a direct experience. This is something I come back to often in my own life, that it needs to be real for me. Everything has to be imminent within my own direct experience. Otherwise, I'm always living for some idea of what I believe could be so, or a concept that I'm trying to make true, or a future moment that I'm trying to achieve. And we do this so often in the field of all kinds of challenging experiences. I'd love to hear a little bit more about this process and the practice of applying that devotion to know the benevolence of life, even when it's really difficult, and to really be authentic with that.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you. There's you use the word curiosity, and I am in absolute agreement with you. Curiosity is actually one of the highest experiences that we can have of ourselves, so is amusement.
Mm,
And so there's this notion and this ideal of, can we get curious in the face of adversity? Can we ask the question, I wonder what this is about,
mm,
rather than spiritually strong arming ourselves and asking, what did I do to cause this? Right? There are a lot of spiritual teachings that reinforce this notion that as co-creators, we're creating on some level, we're creating the adversity that we're experiencing. And what I'd like to do is back up 100 feet from all of that and invite those who are ready to become curious in moments that are challenging, to be asking the question, I wonder what this is about, without needing to know the answer. That's part of it. To get to the place where we can genuinely engage a question like, I wonder what this is about, we have to have a level of trust
mm,
that, in fact, we are a part of a supportive universe.
mm,
And foundationally, we can't get to that place until we have a level of trust with ourselves. And this is really where I feel like the answer to your question
mm,
starts, is what are the things that we are each doing in our own lives to create authentic relationship with ourselves, so that in any moment we can come back to our sense of ground, not because life around us is offering it, but because we can ground in the groundlessness, because we are our own ground. And we can only build that level of trust by building relationship to ourselves, that as many people, especially those who are incredibly empathic, early in life, we start to engage ourselves in relationship to anything based on what we're engaging. So we modify our behavior to keep our surroundings safe or to feel in control of a situation with all good intentions. So the answer to all of this starts with creating a foundational relationship of trust with ourselves, a trust that knows things will unfold that are challenging, but I am devoted to staying with me, whatever that means for each individual. If that means self-care practices, great. If it means moments for stillness, great. If it means exercise and self-reflection, great. Whatever it is that allows us to become more comfortable in our embodied experience of ourselves, that is the only ground we need. So that as life has her way with us, and she will, we come back to our ground. And that from that place, we have better access to the curiosity to meet those hard moments. The other piece that I would say, another piece to the roadmap of meeting what feels like adversity, is to be able to come back to self. For me, very often I make contact with my body. I'll hold my heart, I'll hold my arm, so that I'm bringing my awareness into my body. And I'll acknowledge what I'm feeling. Okay, this is challenging. This is frightening. This is upsetting for me. This feels unsettling. Whether we can name it or not, it doesn't matter. But we're showing up for ourselves, and we're building trust when we take a moment to have whatever feeling that we're having. That's a part of building this trust. It's essential. The other piece that I would speak to in moments of adversity, or in perceived adversity and challenge and hardship, it's really powerful to get to the place where we can understand that the discomfort we're actually feeling, in all honesty, has nothing to do with the thing we're experiencing, but rather the soul is going off like a warning bell. It's going ding, 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 ding. Right now you're having an experience that is contrary to the truth of who you are, and it feels uncomfortable. That's what's really happening when we have a perceived sense of challenge or adversity. We have moved a little bit away from the truth of who we are into more of an experience, if you will, of the ego. And when I use the word ego, I'm speaking to what I call the dormant aspects of the soul, because it's all soul, it's all spirit, and there are those aspects of us that are still sleeping. And those are the aspects that want to jump up and down and say, no, I'm not upset because I'm out of alignment with myself. I'm upset because, fill in the blank. I'm upset because this thing is happening. We want to be able to be in relationship to whatever is happening without feeling like it's happening to us.
Right.
If we can relate to anything that is happening with the awareness that without exception, it is happening for us, no matter how uncomfortable or challenging. Everything that unfolds is unfolding as an opportunity to give us the straightest path forward home to ourselves.
I appreciate that you point to the reference of our own self-trust being the foundation, because it really does all emanate from there. Our own perception of reality cannot but be an outpicturing of our own choice to be fully embodied and authentic with our own preciousness, our own importance, our own value. And this is something that I find is really potent on my own journey. And I think, as you said, like, this is common for people who are empathic and have tended to sort of orient to external reality first, or accommodating to environment, or choosing reaction according to the external. as opposed to the internal being the reference point. It takes a level of courage
That's right.
and ultimately I think it's revealed that it's not courageous, it's actually just natural, but getting there is, it seems, somewhat of a courageous process because it's facing all those tendencies which are unconscious. They're not, things that were even, there's a story in I don't know if you've ever heard this or if I've ever shared with you, but there's a story in the Bible, in the book of Exodus, where Pharaoh, there's a line that in the Torah that says, and his heart was hardened. And at that point, he was no longer willing to let the Israelites leave Egypt. He wanted to keep them as slaves. And there's like this interesting commentary. I think the line was, God hardened Pharaoh's heart, and then he was no longer willing to be accommodating and supportive to the Israelites. And there's this one interesting commentary on this, that is, at a certain point, relative to having made the choice many, many times over to orient in a way of fear and control and possessiveness, that Pharaoh brought himself to a point where he no longer had the choice. There was no longer a clear and conscious junction from which he was able to consciously decide between wellness and control, possessiveness. And it seems that our entrenched patterns, to some extent, create, not, I would maybe argue with any absolute notion of there being a loss of, choice, but it does seem that we entrench this incredibly deep pattern by a way of having become so accustomed living outside of ourselves that we cease to realize that actually it's a choice. Like the choice underneath it is lost because it's just become so conditioned. And I feel that much of how we live in this world, most humans, most of the time, is sort of zombie-like, in the sense that we've long ago abdicated this divine gift of choice and have conditioned a reality of orienting from an external and unconscious place. And so rewiring, like actually unraveling that and becoming aware of a fundamental power that we have inside of ourselves to orient to our inner reality and to build self-trust and to ask ourselves, how can I permit and give to myself that which is right for me, that which is of my entitlement as a child of God, that which is inherently healthy and well and thus obvious, thus innate to who I am, to be thinking in that direction, which I'm learning is the natural current of life. It is yet still often experienced as an effortful process because we're actually facing lifetimes of conditioning that has basically been one of disempowering our own selves from this important self-trust. And so there's something that I want to bring up here, because I find on my own journey, as well as so many people that I work with, that this process of returning to self is by no means straightforward. It's not, conceptually, it is straightforward. It's incredibly straightforward. There's actually no very easy thing. But the actual process of it, it's often messy and confusing. And there's a lot of learning around discernment and oftentimes going into extremes of extreme behaviors and efforts to, ultimately achieve this very pure and sincere intention. So one example of that is just this notion of daily practice, self-care, developing a healthy relationship to cultivating a healthy mental pattern. I see so many people in the world earnestly efforting to create wellness within. But so often these efforts unintentionally have become almost like an empty shell, like a practice where there's no longer the direct experience in the moment of the practice. And I see this with diet, relationships, meditation, or exercise. Like everything, even if it's healthy, isn't necessarily working, quote unquote, because it's not about it working. And that can be confusing to the very sincere and devoted spiritual aspirant that is wanting to live in peace. And so I want to open up a little bit of a conversation about this, because one final thought on this, I find that it's not the action that is important, it's the way that we bring ourselves to it. And in that sense, it's sort of like this big ha-ha from the universe, where the answer itself is the self-trust. And so that's where we're going. The thing that we're doing is just almost like an embodied expression or a celebration of that. But when it becomes almost a materialistic goal, and we forget that core orientation to how we are moving through life, we can delude ourselves and get really confused. So I would love to hear anything you wish to share about this.
I love that you're bringing this piece forward, because this is something that is touching everyone right now globally. We each
Right.
have our own story, but if you were to ask me what's the global theme, what's happening on the planet right now, the word that I would use is a word you referenced, and it's the word unraveling. This is an incredibly dynamic time for our species, and we are being completely unraveled and undone. And we have had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to step into this on our own. And human nature tends to invite life to step in and do some of the work, because it does require such courage to step into our own unraveling. And so here we are at this place where life is unraveling for us these older ways of being. And what's required of us, the opportunity right now, is to understand that the old ways are outdated. Even the old ways that seem so loving or conscious, um, doing ritual, engaging in self-care. These are all things that in the past have felt very important and very nourishing. And we are at a brand new time. Right now, we're actually being asked to engage quite differently. We're being asked to step into our courage, to walk into the unraveling, to notice what's surfacing for each of us, to lean into that, to let it become undone. All of it. So when we're grieving, let grief have us, rather than going into a more traditional therapeutic approach of what is the cause or the source of my grief and how do I heal it. Our opportunity is actually, life is taking us by the shoulders and asking us to walk straighter into and through the unraveling, and to let these experiences have us completely. And it's not about losing ourselves, it's actually about finding ourselves. It's about undoing conditioning that made us think that there was a lot of energy that needed to be offered toward fixing something, toward healing something, toward looking at something, toward understanding something. And the honest to God truth is we are way more dynamic than that. And the notion of effort is being replaced by the opportunities for empowered choice. And empowered choice can only be taken from our feeling body, how we're led moment by moment, rather than what we think we should be doing. So even in the past, when lighting a candle and having prayer may have felt or seemed like the right action, now we might be called to do something entirely different. And our willingness to let go of those old practices, our willingness to let go of the old ways, will naturally usher us into a new way. But the way has not been paved. The way will be revealed. And again, the only way we can truly see the revealing is to be in relationship with ourselves enough to trust one moment, one heartbeat, one breath at a time. How am I led in this moment?
What arises here is the importance of being compassionate with our inner dialogue, our inner monologue, really, about what our path is or what it has to be, because it's very easy to impose upon ourselves this very stern, unloving perspective that sort of reinforces this notion of being far from where we need to be.
Yeah, thank you.
And it causes a lot more pain and hurt, and it doesn't actually allow us to connect with what's inside, connect with our grief, even connect with our joy. And I think there's something really universal about how we are in relationship to ourselves when we consider the idea of our own cultivation of self-trust, our own wellness, and how we are in relationship to any moment in time. That one context or experience isn't different and the same principles are there. So coming full circle, when I met you, that particular day, I was taking a walk in the forest. And I remember very vividly that I was content. And the energy of contentment is pretty much the statement of now is enough, which I wish for everyone. I mean,
Yes.
it's honestly my highest ideal personally. And in that space, I mean, from nothing, something will always arise. If there's nothing, there's always a next thing. So there's always going to be a revealing of God's plan, literally, and you can think of it that way, when we are in a state of enoughness, because it's a direct experience that life literally reveals the next moment. And whether that's coming from inside of us, an emotion, a feeling, a sensation, or an external event, there's no difference. Everything that arises from stillness is literally one with the creation of life. It's one with the creation of everything. And in that particular instance, I just saw some friends that were walking down, a trail in the forest, and they invited me to a tea party at this other friend's house. And I felt an immediate yes. There was no contradiction going. It all felt joyful and exciting and fun and curious. And that's one of those things where life led itself effortlessly to that party. And then Jennifer, said, what was it that you said? It's good to see you in person or something like that.
I remember you.
I remember, right. And you also, like, I've been watching you or something like that. And I was certain that I knew you before, which I now understand was just a very deep soul recognition, but we actually never met, as far as I'm aware, in the physical.
That's right.
Although we've been in the same town more or less for several years. And, and that was the seeding of a really important and beautiful journey. The same is true in our own personal life. It doesn't have to be like walking in a forest and we meet someone. This orientation where now is enough is so important. And now is enough must not be taken in a way where we're repressing or denying any strong sensation, anything that's arising inside of us, because that would not be right now. And to actually explore the possibility of now is enough in a way that is inclusive of what is right now seems to bring this quality of grace. It's like life solves itself. Life provides its own solution. Life gives, because life holds a holistic awareness that is seeing always 100% of the time beyond the allegiance to there being a problem. It's never there. It's never identifying with the notion of something being wrong. And so, yeah, that does take a lot of courage, but it really does come down to the way that we are orienting to the present moment in a way that's encompassing to being here now. I often find myself coming back to this reflection that everything is sort of embodied in the metaphor of the dance of divine lovers, which seems to hold itself in this perception of there being opposites, and the opposites being perceived maybe as masculine, feminine, or um, doing and allowing, you know, embracing a practice, but doing it in the present moment, which is not a practice. That there always seems to be this apparent merging of seeming dualities. And I think that this place of unity, which is so often experienced when it comes to relationship, but it's reflected perfectly and fully in everything that we do, where there can be this movement towards, I have to make something happen. I have to take this sense of leadership and responsibility because it's all on my shoulders. And if I don't do it, then I'm failing. Which is sort of this like the distorted, wounded masculine perspective of like thinking it's all about what I need to do. And so there's a lot of grief in that way of doing, but we can bring that into diet, we can bring that into meditation. Or this other extreme, which is sort of like, help me. I'm, I'm receptive, I'm open, I'm available, where there's just this deep yin place, but one that is unconsciously denying itself its own power of choice. And so I feel there's something really important around this because whenever I think of this, I don't come to like a nice and tidy mathematical formula because I think that it itself is more about a poetry and a jumping into the dance. And I have this realization so often in my life that I just need to sing as much as possible. But even like that, it's not like just sing because it's not just about singing. It's actually the presence that I might bring into the song. Yeah, it's just sort of like this remembering of like the answer is more like a flower. The answer is more like lovemaking. The answer is more like um this romance. And the thinking mind can't go there.
That's so right. Because with a flower blooming, or in a moment right before orgasmic climax, there is no thinking, there is no thought, there is presence.
Mm.
And in presence, all else falls away except for what is right here before us, which is not judged. It is simply what is here before us. Very often, people live their lives desiring to move around discomfort. Like, how do I stop feeling this stress? How do I
Yeah.
stop having this fear? How do I move through this grief faster. And those questions, or that navigating life in that way with this idea or notion that we want to get around what's challenging it, and what we should be working toward is contentment or peace all the time. And the honest truth is, in a human experience, in a divine human experience, there's room to be exactly where we are without need to navigate around it. That we can say in a given moment, there is stress for me right now. We can say, I'm having grief right now. And it's okay if we can release ourselves from that idea of, but I want to get somewhere that I am not right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually where the suffering happens. If we can give ourselves to the moment of whatever we're experiencing, we can actually have it to completion or resolution. And then that experience lends itself, not through our effort, but through its natural course, to the next moment, whatever that moment is. So this is about rewriting that notion of efforting to get through the hard moments to get to contentment. And it is about allowing ourselves to be, not only allowing ourselves to be right where we are, but understanding the value in being right where we are. Because in a moment of challenge in a relationship, for example, if we understand that the discomfort that we're feeling is actually what's healing, if we can understand that those challenging moments, those uncomfortable moments, are actually something that's detoxing, then we can become active participants in that process by just simply giving ourselves to it without even understanding it. We can say, I may not know what this discomfort is about. I don't even need to name it. And I desire to be a part of this release, transmutation, healing that is happening through me right now. And that's it. And maybe we sit for a moment and give ourselves to the experience, or maybe we hold ourselves for a moment, or maybe we say, it's okay. It's okay to be sad right now.
Mm-hmm.
Without going into the thinking mind, without making it mental, without figuring it out, without trying to make it go away. This is the new way.
Yeah, thank you. It is. It really is. I have this black journal. I have many journals of poetry. This is maybe my fifth. But as I've been maturing, especially over the past couple years in particular, a lot of my poetry has gotten very, very dark. And I've been finding for myself that the expressing sort of the rawness of even the projections and the thoughts that I know aren't true, but giving myself an absolute space to really articulate them. You know, for those astrologically inclined, my moon is in Scorpio in the 3rd house. And for everyone, your moon is how we each naturally integrate our emotional experiences to make it safe and accessible to live and be here now in the moment. It's their own way of integrating and bringing things in, processing it. And so Scorpio in the 3rd house is really about focusing the mind on the bottom line, which means it doesn't want to be any kind of BS. So for me, I've been finding a lot of therapy in being able to articulate just the grit and knowing there's safety here in my little journal. And so often what I find comes through is just the acknowledgement of like what I want to go away, what I don't want to face. And almost in the way that a child, if the child has, I was going to say, if they haven't learned how to define intimacy with what's inside as if it was only internal, but I'm actually going to shift that if they've learned to reflect their problems as an external thing. It's very common to see children react in those ways where it's like, you know, make this go away, or get me that thing, or this person did this to me, a very strong insistence, and there's total honesty about it. There's no shame in it. They're often just completely transparent in what they're resisting about reality. And for me to allow myself to go there,
Mhm.
I found for me, writing is a very safe, because it's not causing anyone harm. Um, I'm able to fully embody it. And it's just a way for me to let myself be in the darkness. And I don't know anyone who doesn't go through darkness, who doesn't go through really difficult periods where there's that temptation to run away, either towards solutions and fixing, or sort of this despair of lostness and not believing oneself to have the ability to make choices in the moment. And I love what you said, because the moment we bring attention to how we're feeling as just being what is right now, that's when things change. That the suffering that we experience is our resistance. It's so fascinating
Thank
that the
you.
only suffering that we experience comes in resisting the present moment. It's such a head trip to the mind, because the mind wants to make it about so many other things, but it's actually just this moment and how we're resisting it. It's really beautiful.
There's a practice that I do with folks that is incredibly powerful that I want to offer here to anyone whom this might be of benefit for. But just as you are saying, so often we will talk ourselves out of or feel wrong for something that we're feeling or experiencing. One of the most powerful practices that I have had the honor to witness people engage is the process of holding themselves and acknowledging out loud. And you don't need anyone to witness this, you can do this yourself, but just saying it's okay, and then saying whatever you're feeling. So let's say there's an experience where you're particularly upset with an argument or something that happened in a relationship, and just saying it's okay that I'm upset right now, and keep going until
Mm,
you run out of things. And what will surface is absolutely astounding, but you may just keep going and say, and it's okay that I wish this were different. It's okay that I hate this. It's
mm,
okay that I want this to stop. It's okay that my stomach hurts. It's okay that my heart feels like it's breaking. It's okay that I have resentment. It's okay that I'm judging everything about this situation. It's okay that I want to die. It's okay that everything in my body hurts. It's okay that I have rage. It's okay. And we just keep going until you run out.
mm.
And the layers that will reveal themselves and the healing that happens through allowing it all to be exactly what it is so powerful.
Love that. I like to go a little darker than that
Yeah,
personally,
well, by all means.
to kind of take away the it's okay part. And I think for some people, the it's okay might be actually really helpful.
Mhm.
For me, I find incredible therapeutic value in just going into the judgment straight on
Great.
without any qualification. Like,
Mhm.
I want this to change. I don't like this. I hate myself. Like, very, very dark thoughts that otherwise maybe wouldn't want to be expressed so much in the public field. And it's interesting because I find for myself, just in because I know, I think a part of it is my self-trust. Because I trust that there's a part of me that is clear, that I always know is there, I feel safe
Mm.
to give 100% allowance, to be unfiltered with my own self in that. But I think that that practice could possibly be a little bit of dangerous territory if there isn't that ground. It's easy to get lost or stuck in identifying with those thoughts if there isn't already a sort of some level of ground in trusting that this moment is okay and that it's safe to bring them up.
For some people, a practice like that will actually start to create a ground that may not have been there for them before.
Hmm.
The notion of it really is okay, whatever we're in right now starts to be the ground. So it's a beginning practice for many people. And I love the invitation that you just spoke to. I love the invitation of inviting people into that knowing in themselves that there is a place that resides within us that remembers our inherent innocence. Even if we can't find it in a moment, there is a place within us, each of us, all of us, where we remember our inherent innocence. That can never be taken from us, and even lifetimes of being distanced from that, there is a place inside of each of us that remembers. And so inviting ourselves to allow that to be part of the ground that holds us.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There is also a place that resides within each of us where peace lives undisturbed. And again, in many moments, it may be hard to access that, but to simply have the awareness that even if I can't find it, there is a place inside of me where peace is ever present, where stillness is ever present. And if we can simply attune to that remembrance, that knowing, we're allowing light to shine in those places within us.
I want to ask Jennifer if, just in this open space, if there's anything else that you want to speak to or share that people get to hear right now or listen to. And I just feel in your words, there's the underlying vibration in the space that's shared here is one of deep permission. So yeah, I just want to invite anything that wishes to be an expression of that.
Thank you. As you even open that space, the piece that surfaces for me is the opportunity that we are standing on right now as a species, as a shared humanity. There is this time, this moment in time is steeped. It is absolutely steeped in opportunity to engage more lovingly with one another. It is steeped in opportunity to walk with our eyes wide open to what is unfolding around us, and yet to have a vision of where we want to go. It is essential that we reclaim our right to vision the planet, the world, the multiverse that we want to be a part of. I think very often for people, the people that I speak to, the people that I see outwardly, feel that their opportunity for vision is shrinking and they're living in reaction to life as it unfolds around us. And we must take back our power to vision beyond what is unfolding, because it is only through that piece that we can actually start to move in a new direction. We must not get distracted by the hardship, by the pain, by the suffering. Now, that's not to say we don't look at it. We need to look at the hardship. We need to look at the pain. We need to look at the suffering. And then ask the question, what do I have available genuinely within me to offer? Not what should I be doing? No, that's an outdated question. But what do I have genuinely available in me to offer? If we could each be looking at that and offering more love to one another. Look at the inclination to fold inward. Look at where fear wants to arise to distract us from the opportunity to know love more fully. That's what's happening on the planet right now. We're being given opportunity to choose love, to choose kindness, to choose unity. And life gives us that opportunity by giving us these storylines that look like fear, that look like disempowerment, but really they are our opportunity to reach to one another more in love. So in politics, when you feel disheartened, do not throw your hands up and say it's a lost system. Stand up for whatever it is that you believe in. Stand and use your voice as a voice for the voiceless. Stand and use your voice for whatever it is you believe in. Stand for the love that moves uniquely through you. Make empowered choices. Start with those choices inwardly. How can you tend to you in the most loving ways? Then extend that to how can I tend to the people around me in the most loving ways that are nourishing for me? Not how do I overextend myself, but how do I offer myself in deep service to my family, to my community, to my country, to my earth, to the animals, to the waters. This is our opportunity right now. Don't be dissuaded by the challenges that it looks like we are having right now, because these challenges are here to invite us to rise more fully to the inherent nature of love that is the pulse in our heart, that is the pulse through our veins. So when you're looking at how to take good care of yourself in this political climate and in relationship to coronavirus or anything else, look first to how do I tend lovingly to me? How do I tend lovingly to my family? How do I tend lovingly to my community? How do I tend lovingly to this planet and to all beings everywhere? Don't stop at how do I tend to me, because you cannot be well if it's not wellness for all.
Mm-hmm.
This is what life is offering us right now. I know there's a tendency to feel impacted by the stress outwardly, to feel impacted by what feels like despair and challenge. And I promise you, everything that is unfolding right now is unfolding to bring us home more fully to ourselves and in remembrance of who we are as a shared consciousness here to live and express itself as love.
Mm-hmm.
So
Thank you
don't
so
stop
much.
visioning.
Mm-hmm.
I invite people every day to be speaking out loud in their hearts, in their families, in their communities. I see a world where, fill in the blank,
Mm-hmm.
people are healthy, where people have access to what they need, where people share their resources lovingly, where people are well sourced and nourished within themselves, where the waters are healthy. Keep going, keep speaking it, keep affirming it, because it's not enough to stand up and fight something. We have to be visioning where we want to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Reminds me of a funny little quote a woman on the street once told me, random, past her, and she looked at me and she said, it's easier to find what you're looking for if you know what it is you're looking for.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
There's such wisdom there. And even if we don't know the details of what we're looking for, if we can intend to be moving toward the unity consciousness, which is already prevalent on this planet, whatever that means, in the highest unfolding for all beings, because there can only be benefit to one if there is benefit to all, which is how you started this conversation. The acknowledgement and the truth of that is that what is good for me is good for all.
Yeah, I just want to offer a blessing to everyone here. Just in the remembering that we are all in this together, and there's this beautiful piece that comes in taking a broader perspective of seeing that we're all kind of equal and that we're all suffering. Like everyone is equally prone to fear and suffering and resistance. And noticing that shared unity, for me at least, helps to alleviate the seeming importance of what feels so right in my face. And if we can just appreciate that, I think that's one of the gifts, one of the many gifts afforded in different dynamics that are manifesting for large groups of people globally. Although suffering is always a widespread pandemic, it's just everything's always kind of universal anyway, but things that are more overt and obvious to most people, it provides a gift in that we get to take a step away from our seriousness for a moment and just appreciate that, well, we can sign up for the whole like fear and suffering and nervousness and scared mentality. And that would just be the same old program. That would just be the same old way that we are all conditioned to respond to challenges in our life. But I find for myself, when I notice people like really going through hard times, it brings me a lot of compassion, where I'm like, oh, I'm just like that. And I'm seeing so clearly through their reflection what doesn't work. And that helps me, one, have compassion for them because I totally identify with that. And it shows me the obviousness of the other path, of choosing a different way to direct my thoughts and to direct my mind. And I just want to share one thing that's coming through. In lieu of the idea that we're always given the solution in the moment, I feel at this time there is a very sincere calling for us to step into our medicine, to step into our power, to really share. And this resonates with what you're saying with speak up, move the energy out. There's something really important around that right now. And I think on the one hand, we don't know what that will look like entirely because it's new. We are co-creating a reality that is entirely new to what we've known. And two, we're facing an old conditioned program within our minds that basically supposes we're not ready or worthy or capable or able or supposed to. And so that's something that I really want to offer as an empowerment and a blessing and a prayer for all of us. Know that much of our fulfillment comes in actually demonstrating and choosing actions that embody the love that we are. And that's that dance of the primal forces. It's, like if you're in a partnership, there's something about opening your heart and extending it towards the other, not just waiting for the love to return. So there's something really important in giving ourselves a little more fully to the world.
That's right. Thank you.
And we have the support for that. I mean, my life is a teaching of that. I'm always learning this. But the ingredients are right there in the kitchen. It's right there in front of us. And so, in lieu of that as well, to really know when to receive support, to know when to ask for it and who to ask for, and if the solutions, if the teachings, if the teachers are right there, then it's often just a matter of saying yes to it and extending our hearts towards such relationships. And so again, I really honor and appreciate the journey that I've been graced to share with you and the ways that it's met me along this path. And those that have worked with me as well, I'm so grateful for that opportunity. And that's something that I'm always learning to do, is to extend myself and to let it be known that I'm available. And I'm curious, what are you doing right now? Is there anything that you want people to know about your work and life and offering?
That's so lovely. Thank you. I am following my heart. I'm following my bliss, and I'm continually astounded where that is taking me. So, right now, I have a couple of passion projects that are just about to launch into the world with so much force, with so much love. I have a new oracle deck that is coming out that is a co-creation between myself and two other phenomenal human beings.
Mm.
It's called the Illuminated Love Oracle. It's unlike anything I've ever experienced before. Each card is actually an attunement or an activation, and the artwork has been created so as to allow that to be the case. It's incredibly powerful. I'm excited about that, and that'll be available to be in people's hands this summer. I am supporting an amazing new product line, which is called Be I Am Wild Soul. It's a line of self-ritual is basically what it is. There's different
Mm,
mists for the 12 chakras and candles and things to step into personal ritual on a daily basis, and stepping kind of away from that older paradigm of being told how to do ritual into how
mm,
to actually find ritual within ourselves, which I'm
mm.
really
I
loving.
love that.
So
That's
that's happening. And then I have a new book that'll be coming out that is called Living Brilliance. And it's actually um, a guidebook, a planner that embodies so many of the teachings that have felt really paramount over the years to experiencing our embodied brilliance. And so
mm.
it's a day-to-day movement and invitation into claiming our empowerment, claiming our brilliance. So lots of wonderful things.
Sweet. I look forward to all of that. And can all this be found on your website
Eventually,
eventually? Yeah. Great.
as people who know me know that I'm often slower with the technological pieces of things and more drawn to bringing things into the physical realm and having them anchored here, and
Yeah.
then knowing that people will find and be drawn to those in their own perfect way.
I love
um,
that.
which is always the case. It's always the case. So yes, eventually that will be reflected online in, in other ways. And
It
right
will.
now,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
been my focus.
I love that. I really respect that. It's actually it's refreshing, because I'm on this personal path of supporting a family now, and so there's a lot more consciousness around earning income, and thus sort of motivating me to look inside and like, what am I called to do? But it's very easy for the motivation to become confused, especially with all the different opinions and perspectives and how-tos out there, to become very oriented towards um, this external way of moving in the world, where it's about the platform and the name and the structure. And I think all of those things are really important because they're all embodiments, they're all expressions of the essence that's being brought forth. But I do feel strongly that they should not be given priority over the essence that is inspiring them in the first place. And that's the notion where structure has to be in service to love. And I just really appreciate that reflection. And, it's like, this is something that I'm in my own life right now. I feel that this is um, a very authentic place of reflection for me, because I get that reflection from people all the time. It's like, more people should know about you, or you should be the dot, dot, dot. And every time I try to make myself bigger or more out there, it doesn't flow. But when I focus on inspired action, it's
Mhm.
like there's an opening there and the platform expands itself. And interestingly enough, like the videos online that people have seen the most of aren't the videos that I did myself. They're classes that I did on someone else's platform. So it's interesting how, and that's not to say it's a rule that it always has to be that way, but those were instances where I actually noticed I brought forth the most effortlessness. My energy that I brought into those classes was more empty, unattached, and content.
Mm.
And interestingly, those are the ones that spread the most. Whereas the ones that I'm like, I gotta make this a good, put a little opening video, and which is great. But if it's not coming from that same like creative joy, I just noticed that it actually has no consequence. Those videos don't necessarily get a lot of hits. I think it's a really important lesson, and I'm excited to actually see more people coming into prosperity and success in all terms: physical, health, financially, relationship, right? And that's a big part of the teaching that I feel you've been reflecting. That is sort of what's awake right now on the planet, a sense of embodiment. You've said before, and I've quoted you many times, that embodiment is the new ascension. And to be allowing our presence, our way of moving into the moment, to be inspiring the structures that we create, is to really allow for spirit to be at the forefront of everything we do. And to even to allow spirit to be at the forefront of our physical existence. In that sense, not separating it from spirit. And I think that's so important because it's very easy to get sucked into these binaries of, you know, strict spiritualism that denies taking care of yourself, or this materialism that gives a little bit too much focus on this empty value of success and money and things like that.
Thank you. Thank you. It
Yeah,
only takes a few of us showing the new way of doing things that will help inspire others to find whatever their path is, whatever their truth is within
yeah,
themselves. And this is a time, excuse me, where we're being called to walk in new ways.
indeed. And it has to be. I mean, that's the way of walking sustainably on this earth. We're needing to, and this is what's rising right now, is ways of living where there isn't a competition with life.
Mhm.
You know, and that's sustainable, and that's loving, and that's caring. We can replenish ourselves within that. So yeah, there's a lot of trust there. All right, well, Jennifer, thank you for sharing this conversation with me. And yeah, my honor and my joy to get to share this with you.
Thank you so much. What an absolute blessing to be with you today. And the whole time we've been talking, I've been tuning into and feeling the hearts of those who will be drawn
Of
to this
course, yeah.
conversation. And I'm just loving those hearts so deeply.
Mm,
May
uh,
all that has come through here today touch you so deeply and ripple out into the world more and more fully for the good of all beings. Thank you.